In New York, there's something really beautiful that happens, which is people really come together to get to create work. The part of the business that is a little bit different than here is that not everybody is necessarily expected to get paid.
Welcome to Common Sense Mamita. I'm Lydia Nicole. If it's your first time and you want information on acting tips, showbiz insight, or life lessons, you've come to the right place. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss anything. Today, we have the pleasure of having this amazing young Latina on fire. Not only is she an actress, a producer, she's also a solopreneur. Please help me welcome Ydaiber Orozco. Welcome,
Thank
Ydaiber.
you.
How are you?
Very good.
Man, I'm so excited to meet you.
Likewise. I can't believe we have not met before.
I know.
With all those friends in common that we have.
So tell me, where are you from originally?
Venezuela.
And how did you get to the States?
Well, my background is in hotel management. That's how I started, or my professional career life started as a hotel management manager. And I moved to Orlando to work in that field. And while I was working in Orlando, then I continued doing the acting that I was doing on the side in Venezuela until I eventually made it a priority.
Okay, so let's talk about how you got into acting in Venezuela. How did that come about?
It was pretty much like, I'm not going to say school plays because it's a little different than here. You know, like the school plays back home are not necessarily like you go on audition and then you get cast and you present it. It was more like, oh, we're going to do a show at the end of the year. You're in it, you're in it, you're in it. And everybody else was like, okay. I was like, why am I never picked? I was never getting picked to do these shows. So I went and I did my own. I think that's how also my producing career started, because I was like, I'm just gonna create my own thing if you're not gonna invite me to the parties. So I literally got together like the kids that lived in my building, and I picked a play. I picked El Avaro from Moliere, which, I mean, it couldn't be more like
difficult,
challenging. And I was like, oh yeah, we can do this. I gather all of them, gave them instructions like, you're the director, you're the costume designer, you're like, so I had those instincts already of putting groups of people together. I cast it basically. I said, you're gonna play this, you're gonna play this, I'm gonna play this. I'm not gonna give myself the lead because I don't want to be so conceited. And then once I got into college, into university, then they did have a theater group, and I kept doing theater all the time until I moved to the States.
Now you're in Florida. When did you decide to go to New York?
Well, it was really interesting actually, because I feel like my career, I owe this person the spark of telling me this once. So I was going to this school, and a teacher of mine actually,
where was the school?
In Orlando. And I was taking, camera classes, commercial classes, everything that I could get my hands in Orlando, which at that time there was not a lot. He said to me, you know what? You need to get out of here. And I'm like, oh, what do you mean? And he's like, you need to go to New York or LA. And I'm like, oh, okay. How do I do that? And he's like, why don't you find a summer school? Find a summer school. I'll help you prepare for it, and then try it and see how you feel like. And that way you can decide if that place is for you. Try one first. And I'm like, okay, I will do that. I was basically like just doing everything he told me to do. So I auditioned for the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, their summer program in New York, and I got in. That changed everything. That was the one thing that changed everything. So I did my program, went back to Orlando, and I was like, I'm out. Grabbed my things and left.
You get to New York, you're studying at the Dramatic Arts School. When do you decide it's time for me to now do this professionally?
Actually, when I got to New York, I was looking for another school, and that took me probably, I want to say, a year or two to find the right place. And that's when I found the Ydaiber Studio. So at
William Esper.
Okay. Yeah.
Excellent.
So at the Esper Studio, I did their conservatory program for 2 years. Once I was done with that, I knew that I just had to continue professionally pursuing work, which I was still kind of doing some work on the side, even though they don't encourage it. Occasionally, I would go and still auditions for commercials and book something here and there. And then once I finished with that, then I was full on.
So now you finished your 2-year conservatory program, and you're starting to go out on auditions. Did you start booking? Because you're like queen of the shorts. You have a long list of shorts.
I do.
Did that start in New York for you?
Yes. So part of it was, again, my own decision of creating my own content. So a lot of those shorts are my own productions with my husband, and a lot of others I just happen to book. But I think that I started actually more commercially. I think that was the first introduction that I got to professional work.
What kind of commercials? English speaking, Spanish speaking?
Mostly Spanish.
Okay.
Mostly Spanish. Occasionally I would do, a lot of commercials that don't really have any dialogue. Then I would book some of those as well. But yeah, the accent has gotten on the way, definitely several times, which, it is what it is at this point. So yeah, so I was doing those commercials. And then I started doing voiceover work in Spanish. I was doing a lot of small theater productions, mostly in Spanish, until I eventually started booking some English work, which was very encouraging. But as far as the film work started, because I literally told my husband, I'm like, okay, we need to do our own thing.
And your husband does what? What's his background?
So he started as a photographer, but then he also went to take classes to learn other sides of the art. So he went and did production and direction and cinematography, a little bit of everything at NYU. And having that base knowledge and that base practice gave us enough to start. In New York, there's something really beautiful that happens, which is people really come together to create work. The part of the business that is a little bit different than here is that not everybody is necessarily expected to get paid, and they're okay with that. So when you're starting and you just want to create, you are finding like gaffers, photographers, cinematographers who are like, yes, let's do it, just for the fun of it. So that's how we started.
Oh, what's the name of your production company?
It's called Sayona Productions. So La Sayona, it's kind of like a version of what the Wailing or La Llorona is.
Okay.
So that's the Venezuelan folklore name for it. So La Sayona Productions.
Okay, fantastic.
And we collaborate with many different writers. Like, we are not writers ourselves. We have written a couple of things, but we have worked with writers who have been like, here's my project. And we're like, oh, sure, let's do this one.
What is the collaborating process when you're working with writers? What have you found to be helpful, and what have you found not to work?
I think that if you're using somebody's script that he has already been written, it's a very different process than if you want a writer to create something for you, which is usually the route that we go.
To have somebody create something for you. Okay.
Sometimes either we have an idea that we want to work around it, or sometimes we just give the writer parameters about certain things that we know are ideal for what we're doing, whether because of budget or timing, location, whatever it is. So many times we would go on, there's one particular writer that we have worked with several times, and we would be like, okay, 3 actors, 1 Latina, 1 location, horror. And with that, he would come with ideas. How about this? How about that? So that would be what has worked for us the best. When we take somebody's script and be like, okay, we're gonna do this, I find that there's less of that creating process from the beginning. So I feel I'm personally more engaged when from the get-go we go and say, I think we want to do something around vampires.
When it's truly collaborative, as opposed to you getting somebody's project. The first time you did your own production, you didn't make yourself the lead. Has that changed?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Good girl. That's how we want to create content, so we can highlight ourselves.
Yes,
right?
I think that being humble and all of that's wonderful and great. But let's be honest. I mean, what do I want? And if I want to be able to put myself out there and have people see my work, I have to give myself permission to do that. I was listening actually to a meditation this morning that talked about giving yourself permission. You have to allow yourself to give permission to follow your purpose. And I am allowing myself to do that now.
It's easier to navigate New York and getting people to support you and help you with content and be part of a team because people are more eager in New York, and they're not necessarily looking for you to pay them, especially when you don't have the money for yourself. It's hard to be an independent producer and independent content creators. So when you were doing it in New York, did you just reach out to friends? Had you already created a base of friends that were in the business that you could say, hey, Tito, let me tell you what I'm doing. Come and join the party. Maria, come on over. Carmen, we I'll make some food. We'll do this
Definitely,
thing.
there was a base.
Okay.
So there was one cinematographer, Edwin Pagan, who we adore. He's a fantastic photographer and cinematographer.
Yes, he had an exhibit a couple years ago.
Yeah, los seis del sur. And he also is into the horror genre.
Okay.
Which is what my husband is into.
Okay.
So I love it, but I want to do other stuff too.
Right.
So the latest projects we've done are not necessarily horror, but we started mostly with horror because of Edwin's interest and because of my husband Leo's interest. So I was like, sure, let's do horror films. So he has a platform that allow us also to reach out to people because he's well known. I mean, like people respect a lot of his work, and I admire him a lot. And for us, we took him as a mentor, and we were like, okay, well, teach us what you know.
Beautiful. So what made you come to Los Angeles?
So there was a moment when I started feeling stuck, which I think it happens to a lot of us.
What does that look like?
For me, the way it looked like is I was consistently going out for commercials. I was booking some. I was consistently doing theater. Sure, great, very great for my soul. Very for my creative soul. But then I was not having any bigger opportunities. I would have like one TV audition every 6 or 8 months. So that didn't look to me like that was enough, and I wanted more. I think it always, my desire to move forward comes from wanting this so much. So that passion is just like, hungry. I want more. I deserve more. I know I can do more. And the weather really got to me. I mean, I was done. Actually, when I left was like the worst, snowstorm in I don't know how many years. And I was like, thank God I'm out of here. So that was part of it too. I feel I am more creative and more active in 70, 80 degree weather. When the sun is shining most of the time. I'm okay with the rain, but in the occasionally snow. But it was, to me, 4 or 5 months of cold was not conducive for creativity.
How do you navigate LA? Did you know people?
I didn't know anybody. I think I knew one person who I had coincidentally go in New York to support his short film. I reached out to him, and he was the kindest person ever, and he referred me to his agent, and his agent took me in. It was literally that easy, if you can call it easy, because it was my first contact, my first meeting, and it worked out, and I started with my agent, who still I work with till this day. I booked my first commercial, I think, within the first month or two, and then that gave me some leverage. So I was like, okay, so now that you're representing me commercially, can you represent me theatrically? And it was not easy. He was like, okay, well, you have to audition again. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do it. Once I have my representation in place, at least my agent, then he gave me some confidence to be like, okay, what's next? Classes. So to me, it's always like, okay, let me find a good class.
What kind of class did you get into?
First, I went to the BGB studio because BGB gives you the opportunity to kind of see 7 different teachers, and you kind of have an understanding of how their studio run, and you can pick, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I think I connected more with the on-camera teacher or whatever you connect with. And then I started going to LA on-camera training, who I love. It's a couple, actually, husband and wife, and he does the drama and she does the comedy, and they are fantastic. So they're my go-to studio now. But that also starts creating a community of collaborators and people who are like, oh, why don't we do something together? And then, funny enough, some of my New York friends started moving here.
What's your way of making friendships?
I think it has to happen very organically, and it also comes from a place of admiration. I think that when you're going in a class or you're going to see a show or a film, and something moves you about that person or something interesting sparks, you're like, okay, I think I could work with this person. But it has to happen very organically. I think that you probably are being in those situations where you know that somebody's trying to get something out of you, and it just doesn't feel right. So it has to feel right. It has to be somebody who has the same work ethic that I have. That to me is very important. So somebody who's willing to put in the work.
So what is your work ethic?
I'm tough. I'm very type A. So, and I think that's why I make a good producer, because I do have my checklist and I do get things done. And if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to get it done. So I think that people who know me appreciate that. Not sure my husband always does, because it's like, oh my God, take a break, lady. I think that when I see somebody similar, and not necessarily that has the same exact style,
right,
but the work ethic of the responsibility and the willingness and the excitement and the passion, then that's a match. So
they come from your tribe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And the people who, like I said, a lot of the people who I've been working with recently has been people who were in New York. So that even if I didn't work with them there, I know them from then. And it's like, oh, yes, these are my peeps, you know. But I have made very, very good relationships here in LA, which I'm very excited about.
Now, I want to get to money and how you support yourself as an actor. Because you came out here pretty cold. You didn't really know anybody. Did you have a job set up?
Nope.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Lovely. I love it. Okay, so you come out here, no net, nothing to catch you.
Nothing.
How did you start? You had to make some money.
It was a very interesting process because when I first came in, I was very fortunate to have some clients in New York for my voiceover work who were still hiring me. So my first year was a dream. It was like, oh, I get to go to the beach and I get to record a couple of times a week. So it was a really nice transition.
So you had clients that allowed you the affordability to be here.
Yes.
Did you set up a studio in your apartment?
No, they were hiring studios here in LA. They were like, oh, you're going to go to this studio and record.
Okay, so you didn't have to do anything. Okay,
it was
go ahead.
Very easy.
Okay.
Literally at once, all of those opportunities started to fade. You know, they were like, oh, we're going to have to hire somebody in New York because it's costing us a lot to have the studio. And then the other one would do some similar reasons. And it just happened that all of them left at the same time. And I was left with nothing. And I'm like, what am I gonna do now? Another job came in where I had no experience whatsoever in, which was as a staff writer for an app. Nice, easy job. I mean, I was doing a lot of research, which I can get into it because I like learning about things.
Because you're an A person.
Because I'm a type A. So I'm like, sure, give it to me. I want to learn. It was a great job because it allowed me the flexibility to audition. I was working from home. But I knew that was not gonna last because it was a startup. And it was like, I don't know, this could be a month, 2 months, a year. And it lasted about a year. After that year, that's when I was really in deep water. Because that job didn't pay enough to give me savings and to keep me comfortable for a while. And it got tough. It got really, really tough. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I mean, of course, my plan B is always to go back to my hotel management, hospitality, event planning life. But I didn't want to. I tried it and I lasted a month. And I lasted a month because I booked a commercial and my employer was like, is this going to be a problem? And I'm like, you know what? Yes, it is. It is going to be a problem because that's my priority. So that lasted a month. And then I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I had to take some classes to get me in the right mindset of being okay with having a job other than being an actor.
So tell me where you took these classes from.
I went to the Actors Fund. There are classes on finances, there are classes on careers and understanding what else you can do besides acting. There's a lot of services, free services that a lot of actors don't even know about. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, and it's also open to people in the industry who are not actors.
Correct.
So if you're a comic, if you're
a makeup artist,
editor. If you're an editor, if you're a camera person, you can go to the Actors Fund and get these classes, which are amazing. And there's a woman there called Miata Edoga, who we actually have interviewed, so you can check it out. We have the link right here, so you can watch her videos. But
Miata,
how did Miata help you?
I think Miata was the biggest wake-up call I ever had when it comes to money and finances. Something that till this day I tell to my fellow actors is something she say to all of us, but of course I take it like if she was telling me, you have to take responsibility for your money. And expecting that your art is going to finance the rest of your life could be a little unrealistic. And when she started putting the numbers in that board and was showing us what it meant for somebody who had, let's say, 7 guest stars, which is a dream for any actor, in a year, and how that would not cover the cost of living in LA, I think that all of us were like, this is real. You know, we do have to figure something else out, you know? And I admire so many of my friends who are able to live off their acting, and I really, really love the fact that some people are able to do that. And I think that a lot of us aspire to eventually get to that point. But while that happens, I am completely okay now, today, with the fact that I have to have a job. And a job that might have nothing to do with it, but still gives you some sort of passion, fire, excitement, because you don't want to be caught in a miserable job either, because then that's the other problem.
Right. And sometimes it's also being a little creative, knowing what your special skills are, so that maybe the job is within the industry that you can still climb, you know, because as a producer, someone who has done production, you could probably also get producing work. You know, get into a looping group. Those groups are kind of closed, but sometimes you can get in there, especially speaking another language, because that's something that is always needed. Even though you have an accent, that accent can be used to your advantage. It's not necessarily a disability.
Right.
You know, and I think that's important for the people who are watching this to know, is that what you might think is a disability is actually your selling point, is actually the thing that can get you the job as opposed to somebody else.
Right.
And so it's looking at the business in a different way of how do you own your skill sets and use them to make money in addition to pursuing your acting. And you did something extraordinary. Take us to, first of all, what you did and how you got to that decision.
So looking at my skills, as you're mentioning, with the help of somebody at the Actors Fund, made me realize that a lot of those skills are definitely transferable. You can just use the same set of skills that I use as an event planner, are very similar to the same set of skills that a producer needs. Very similar, just instead of a set, it's a wedding. That gave me a lot of perspective. And while I was thinking about what else I could do, I ended up having a medical situation that required me to go in a very strict diet till now, that eliminated a lot of the things that we all love: sugar, caffeine, alcohol, so forth and so on. And I needed to do something for myself that made me feel I was at least enjoying some sort of the food I was taking. So the financial decision came after the product came. So I started creating things in the kitchen, just like we create things as actors. I just started creating things in the kitchen, and I came up with a cashew butter. And I took this cashew butter and I packaged it in glass, because part of the restrictions I have on my diet is that I cannot store anything in plastic. So I packed it in a glass and I started gifting it. I was like, oh, this is delicious. I started gifting it to my friends. And then one of my friends was like, you need to sell this. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yes, you need to sell this. So I sent it to all my chefs friends in Orlando and New York and my event planner friends. And I was like, guys, please, I really need feedback. Every single person was like, you need to sell this. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing this. So now I use everything that I learned at Miata's class and talking about a side hustle. And I was like, okay, well, this is going to be my hustle right now. I don't know if it's on the side, but this is going to be my hustle right now. And I went to a business center for women. They're no longer open, but in Sherman Oaks, there was a business center exclusively for women entrepreneurs. And men could go too, but that was the concept. And they helped me register the company, come up with them, everything. I did it within a week.
And the result
is
Spread+Nourish. Ooh, I love that. Spread+Nourish, people. We want to Spread+Nourish. So you have this is
so the cashew butter became now I added
matcha cashew
superfoods in it just because I wanted to add nutritional value as well. So it was not just a cashew butter. So I have a matcha cashew, cacao hazelnut.
So you have a small one.
Yes.
Oh, how cute! It's the mommy and the baby.
And I have the dad at home because I have even a
and there's a bigger one. Papa couldn't come out today.
Yeah, today.
He's at home taking care of everything.
Papa's sold out right now.
Papa went on vacation. Okay, and then this is
cacao hazelnut.
Alrighty now.
It's kind of like your healthy Nutella.
This one
is turmeric almond.
Oh, turmeric almond. Yummy.
And that one has honey in it.
Delicious. I love it. This is awesome.
Thank
you. And where can we buy these?
So I have an Etsy page. I've been invited to a farmer's market that I've been doing once a month. It's a little far. It's in Summerland.
Okay.
But that little town is next to Santa Barbara.
Oh, okay. So you go up.
But that little town has embraced me with open arms, and I just love going there. We're by
wonderful.
the beach. It's once a month, so it's a lot of fun.
That's beautiful. And there's a farmer's market here in North Hollywood on Sundays that does organics and vegetarian stuff. You should also
I should check it out. Yeah, I just applied to the Studio City one.
Okay.
So I'm waiting to hear back.
Okay. But this place is hip and happening too.
Yeah, I'll check it out. And I'm so close. I live so close.
Yes.
So.
First of all, I love you. I love your entrepreneurial
you.
spirit. I love the fact that you kick ass.
Thank
I
you,
love
try.
that you are not letting anything stop you,
No.
and you just keep finding opportunities, taking the challenges and making them into opportunities.
Correct.
That is what we're supposed to do as artists.
Yes.
To take the challenges and turn them into opportunities. So I love it. What would you like to be doing in 5 years from now
Okay.
as an artist?
As an artist, yes,
Yes.
for sure. I definitely see myself moving into feature films. It's not like I'm done with shorts, but I think I'm ready to produce my first feature. And I expect in 5 years that feature has to be out and
Excellent.
done. So that's definitely one of the things. I do aspire to do a lot more TV and film work, but my expectation is that my business and my acting takes care of my finances.
Self-taping as an actor.
Mm-hmm.
Things have changed since when I started.
Mm-hmm.
You would go into an office and you would read and then you would leave. And now it's all about self-taping.
Mm-hmm.
So take me through the process of how self-taping looks like for you.
Well, I do have the advantage of having a filmmaker at home. So,
Okay.
So I do have to disclose that because not everybody has that. But sometimes he's not available, So I think that...
So when he's not available, how do you self-tape?
Friends, you have to have, again, your tribe. You need to be able to count with a couple of people that they will be there for you when you need a good reader. And if not, then there are services. I mean, there is this girl who I adore, Cass, the line runner. She has a self-taping services and a coaching service, and it's very affordable. She's in Hollywood, so that's a very affordable option when I don't have anybody available. But other than that, I think every actor needs to have their backdrop, their light, their mic, and their phone. That's all they need, And you can definitely produce self-taping with good quality, with good production value that are going to be seen by the industry.
What do you think the pros and the cons are for self-taping?
I think not always doing self-taping, when you're not always in the room, you cannot really show your personality through a self-taping because you have a second of a slate where you're saying your name and that's about it. And then you go right into the scene. So having that personal human connection of, that we're having right now, I miss that. However, the advantage of self-taping is that your nerves are a little more under control. And if you're nervous, you get to do it again. And if you're still not hitting something, you get to do it again. Many times we go into those rooms with casting directors and we get one take. So I think the goal for me is to get that first take to be it, even during my self-tapes. Because we can go crazy. We actors, we're like, oh, no, let me do it again. And especially when it's your husband taping you. So we have been making an effort to be like, only a couple of takes. Come on. Gotta treat it as if you are in the room. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us. This has been such a treat for me, meeting a new person from my tribe. I love it. So all the information for Ydaiber is listed below. Check her out. Check out her Etsy page. Check out her IMDb page. And for those of you who are in the position to hire actors, please call her in because she's fabulous.
Thank you.